Hello, everybody. It is me, Empress Katuzzi, otherwise known as Crimson. Today, we're going to be talking about the series "The Lazy Lord Masters the Sword," a series on webtoon that I recently read. I read all of it, all the way up to chapter, I guess, episode 56 episodes on webtoon. So, I'm just going to be talking about this series, talk about what I've witnessed and my own overall thoughts on it. As a quick review, if you're just coming into this for a spoiler-free review, if you've never heard of it, just if you like swords, sorcery, magic, mastering the sword and stuff like that, just like the title, Lazy Lord Masters the Sword, then you can check out this series if you want to and check it out. I really recommend it. I think it's pretty good, and I really like seeing the inner thoughts and seeing like the people just trying to never give up mentality and trying to like master something, even if you don't know what it is that you want to master, but having everyone around you bring you up to the challenge of getting to where you need to get to. So if that sounds interesting to you, then you can go check it out. Other than that, let's get into the spoilers. So after reading this whole entire thing, I've very much have been enjoying. There's lots of things at the beginning that make you think one way until you see the story progress. There's also a lot of room in this series. I can see, like especially there's like this one series that I mentioned not too long ago. Damn it, I already forgot it. Apotheosis, where like it has like over 700 chapters, and it's Chinese or Korean. I think it's a Chinese manhwa, and it has like 700 chapters. Yet there's still like so much storytelling and so much other things that could expand it. And with this, with how limited things are, but it's not limited, but it keeps it in this little area where you can see things where it has like this story and it has races and has these things happening. It has this little thing, and then even though that there's other things that could be happening, you're just watching this little example, this little like story that's unfolding, and I think it's very interesting. The main character, Aaron. One thing that I can say is that this series just like it has like a description that says what happens. It says that the main character Aaron lost his mom at a young age and then became the lazy lord. And then one day he wakes up with like this dream of a vision of someone from the past, like from hundreds of years ago, that masters, like even like from the first chapter, a guy, an old guy that mastered the sword by just harnessing just a vertical slash for a really long time. Who knows if he also did other slashes? And then he also like it seems like that he might even be like this guy that they mentioned towards like I think was it the end of season 1 or at the start of season 2 in the latest episodes where like they talk about this Kun Swordmaster, but he also might still be alive, unless the Kun Swordmaster and the person from the dreams isn't the same person. But it almost seemed like the same person because it did mention an old guy at 70 becoming a great swordmaster, and it took him that long. Then maybe it could just be another swordmaster that's like the swordmaster from the Aaron's dreams that is able to like master it. But like the main character ends up just waking up one day after being in bed all the time because his mom died, so he became like a shut in for like what was it, 15 years or like even like a shorter time than that, and he ends up staying there. But then also like in the story he has like another mom and he has a sister and he has a dad. I don't know if that other mom means like he had two moms because he seems like this other mom he loves as much as the real mom. It's like the scripture just puts you don't even get to see like that past of him losing person, and they meant like it the scripture doesn't match what's actually happening in the story because it's they like don't mention it whatsoever. The description mentions it, but the story doesn't mention it. It's just that they just mention him as like this guy that's just lazing around. He ends up seeing the dream with this old guy, old sword master that you mentioned that you see in the first chapter, and he gets overcome by its willpower. It like possesses him and it embodies him. And I really like it how the main character has to he like instead of becoming the lazy lord he like musters up like this willpower that has entered him, and he just wakes up one day, harnesses the sword, and then he just goes through events of him just having people notice him doing this, seeing how it's weird. An old guy, old sword master, a different sword master, grand sword master Ian. He's a pretty interesting character, and I like it how he has like these wicked smiles throughout his time, the main character, once he joins the sword academy where he meets all of his friends like Judith, Brett, Ilya, and the swordmaster and other people. I like it how like the old man sees him do this, like doing this weird sword thing, and then sees like the potential brewing in him within the willpower of this, and even like further in the future with like other characters, and also like the Ignite towards like the past chapter 54, 55, 56, when people can see inside of him. At the beginning it's like there's the willpower of this dream guy inside of him, then he also has this fire brewing recently once he like masters like everything. And then like there's also have mental training in this. I really like it when they do mental training in series like this where like you, even though that you're training your body in real life and doing all of these things, you also have to train within your inner mind, your inner world, in order to do some even more trading. One thing, even though that I'm blasting all over the place talking about it, that one crazy thing, just to like talk about it, the 5 year time gap that they do with like the main character, even though that he becomes like a crazy, I guess not, he doesn't have any crazy moves yet, because so far with him like igniting his inner fire, inner desires, also like willpower, and like I said at the beginning, never giving up in order, and that really I'd say is like one of the things. Like there's also like talent and like effort that they plaster with you in this series in order to get someone to do it. And there's people that give up sort of in this series, sort of like Brett, but then Aaron gets to Brett, and then other people are just like, as long as like you are able to secure yourself within your own mind in order to have the right attunement to like a certain type of talent with effort, while also never giving up, while also honing your skills, you could get to the next level. And then we even see like at a certain point where further along, with me just skipping over things, when Aaron is fighting off against uh these two like evil like swordmen that was I guess friends with Ignet, was that they like figured they like ended up taking the easy way, because like they thought that effort was enough, but if they did went farther, they could have probably overcome it as long as they did it. And I think that one thing, like if you're someone that already read this, I thought that like the Ignet, because like with Ilya, how she like felt bad about her brother being defeated by Ignet. There's like this crazy sword lady that was like very like has much very great potential and become like a very like young person that was able to be better than older people in order to be the strongest. She like said that she was disappointed with Ilya's brother, and I think that that's because like he didn't have the same willpower that the main character has. So when she like saw that the main character tried to beat her in a duel, different from Ilya's big brother, was that he like didn't give up even though he got knocked out, and she didn't say disappointed, because like if he gave up mid fight, even though that he was trying his best, then she would be disappointed because he didn't give up while getting knocked out. She ended up commending him and stuff like that. And I do like it how like Ignet is just like, I want to like see where you go separate from the power within you. And I like it how the stronger people are, they can actually see within it. Some series like this, like in manhwas, you like the people that are end up that people that are stronger than the main character somehow can't see through the main characters, because the main characters in manhwas usually have like this barrier that their inner power or like their helper, like spirit that's inside of them, ends up blocking the strong characters from seeing them. I like it how in this series where these people, even though that they don't understand the willpower of the dream guy from the past controlling him, even though that they don't get what that is, they're just like I like it how people can actually see it and see what's going on, and when he mentions it to people, they can sort of get it. Definitely best girl, Judith. I definitely like the main character because backtrack to the past, where the main character, old guy, watches him when he like gets controlled by this willpower, ends up inviting him to a sword place. He ends up joining the sword place, and then he ends up going through like this academy where he meets friends like the Ilya, which is, she's a part of this very prestigious family where she has like this sky sword arts, which I think kind of cool. Finds this Brett guy, which I almost thought that the Brett guy was going to be like, the typical, like a rival that's just like a meanie for no, which is just a meanie bad guy for no reason, and then he ends up having to have this squabble Sasuke sort of like other characters that are like that squabble with the main character, or the main character just beats him up because he's just a piece of shit. But instead they gave the piece of shit to this rival families where like the main character is from, then he ends up having to like beat them up, and they're just side characters. Like how there isn't like a main plot with them, there's like a side plot with them, which is pretty interesting. But it definitely goes with the main character. The main character, I like it how the sidetrack. Let's go back to to his friends. I really like I said, the Brett guy. How he ended up just being like a guy that, it's not that he is a rival, but he's like is a rival with a sensible shoulder, and he knows what he is. He knows what he wants, and he ends up working with the main character because he like, can see that the main character at the beginning didn't have skills to do things, and but he had the willpower to keep on going no matter what. But that's what Brett didn't have. So then Brett said, well, I just want to learn from you with your willpower, and then I'll teach you my skills. And I like how he instead of him being a typical rival, he's just like, he's like someone that's just said, you have something, I have something, let's work off each other to strong, and then all the others do it too. And then like I said, best girl Judith, I really like her, how she just ended up sort of like a rival also, but then she ended up not being a rival once the main character did something for her. And I like at how even though the things are simple in this series, it's still it's like finesse that goes on with this. And even though that things I hate it when things are prolonged, because that's what they do in these series. Because things aren't prolonged and it seems like it's just a steady flow of a story with no like things that are like stopping in order to have it continue, and things can just continue the way that they need to be. I think that the series goes at a steady pace. Like there's nothing that seems too slow. Sometimes it could seem like things are going too fast, but I think it's a pretty steady pace. Another character to talk about, Ilya from the Preacher's family. I think the stuff with her is pretty good at the beginning. I thought that she had like a pretty bitch personality. She was like that snob, almost tsundere, light tsundere. I wouldn't say that she was fully tsundere, but it seemed like she was just that cold, maybe cold personality, maybe like Rukia, or like trying to think of another character, just like that cold personality that like didn't work out. But then you see that it was just like a front because she just wanted to be the very best. Then the main character ends up getting to her a little bit, and then things go on from there for them in the academy. I like him getting through that, and then from the academy. But then later on, after he like masters things there and then gets like accepted, he ends up having to leave because he has to figure out his own sword style for like a year. But then that year turns into 5 years, and oh my god, when that happened, I was like, dude, he ends up missing 5 years of his life because he ends up meeting this my second. I guess not best girl, but best character. I guess you can be best girl. He ends up meeting a cat sorcerer because this is like a series of sorcery, magic, and knights and things like that. And I like it how like this cat ends up once wanted to train the main character's sister, which I already forgot her name. I'm just gonna say K because it did start with a K. I'm pretty sure that she was like a sorcerer prodigy when she awakened, and then the cat wanted her, and it's like the cat's a cat. The cat wasn't like how in all series people need to have a cat. Like even like in me, I wanted to start like a webtoon, and then I just thought, oh, the main character he needs a cat sidekick, and the main character needs a cat sidekick, and then the cat is a learned sorcery, awakened to sorcery, and was able to talk, and then decided to have the main character as a student instead of the main character's sister. And later on, we see that the sister ended up getting a different master during the 5 year time skip, 5 year time skip arc. And then he ended up the cat ended up seeing potential in the main character, and then decided to make him a student. And ended up giving him sort of a sorcery lesson that went gone wrong, where the 5 year time skip was him sort of honing his like trying to desire what he wanted, because like his swordmanship sort of came from the dream guy in his dreams instead of his own swordmanship. So then he tries to find it, and even at the latest chapter he still hasn't found his own swordmanship. He still like is a mix of is very like rustic foundation that he could do on his own, that sort of goes into like the first the first chapter where like the dream guy's foundations were like very like odd or like very like unrefined. But then like when he's just doing the vertical slash movement where he can just crack the floor open from the dream master's will, that's sort of strong. Then he also ends up in the 5 year time skip, he gets trapped inside a sorcery awakening device that the cat gives him, and he's trapped in like this fantasy world where he can like hone and try to figure out what his sorcery is or what type of move set he would want to acquire. And I like how like his move set after he gets out of it is that instead of just having a sword that he carries on him, he can summon his sword and use that in battles. And that's kind of cool how he doesn't need to lob it around. He can just summon it, and I guess he can like maybe future things. Maybe he'll, because it's kind of weird how like his sorcery is just summoning it, and I guess like he hasn't mastered aura yet, because like sort of in the latest chapter when he meets the swordmaster grandmaster to have a duel with him, he can summon aura. I wonder if he already has the main character already has aura, if he'll need to figure that out and hone his powers. But then he also ends up in that dream training to get 10,000 swing strikes. Just doing the whole, if you're thinking about it, the Saitama 100 push-ups, 100 setups, and other things like that. He does 10,000 vertical slashes, or just slashes in general, to try to get stronger, more inept, try to get stronger by doing that. And he ends up summoning his friends using in the sorcery dream in order to like master their techniques. So then he has his unrefinedness. He has the vertical slash from the dream guy. He's also able to do his friends' abilities by like remembering like his training with them at the sword academy, and then ends up getting Judith's, Brett's, and Ilya's swordmanship. But even though that he was able to practically get Brett's and Judith's correctly, he was able to do an unrefined version of Ilya's, and then now he just has all of that. So I guess until he refines his own swordsmanship, then he can just, I guess, who knows if he'll be able to copy other people's. There's comments in the webtoon section where people said, "Oh, he's becoming the Kakashi of sword masters. He'll be able to copy anybody's swordsmanship. Who knows if they'll do something like that." But other than that, is there anything else to talk about? But going back to the 5 year time skip, that was crazy how he had to do, how he had to train in a dream world for 5 years. Like goddamn. But at least people said props to the the storyteller of this series, the author or writer, that at least they actually did it. That someone that went into like a time chamber and had to stay there until they figured out what they wanted in life, or what they wanted, what their swordsmanship to be. And I guess his swordsmanship is him counting on his friends and his family and using that love and affection to like encourage himself to get a brighter thing. And like after the time skip, he ends up having this fire in him that he needs to like encourage himself with. And one of the main themes that the next thing that I wanted to talk about was like the main character. He's someone that like doesn't really have desires. Like he doesn't have anything to strive towards. And like even like there's characters throughout the series, throughout the 56 parts, I guess towards like the 52nd or 54th thing, he sort of like has an idea and he is getting to where he needs to be, where like this whole entire time he's been striving and trying so hard because of the dream inside of him that's pushing him past like this ghost in him that's pushing him to like do things, not really controlling him since he's really doing it, but I guess it is controlling him because sort of like he is possessed, because at one point someone did say that it's like a possession that's possessing over him, even though that he can stop if he wanted to, because before he was like someone that he was lazy, he just laid down all the time until the ghost possessed him, and then he just strived to do all of these things. And one thing that he has is that he's just blank. He has to like figure out what exactly he wants. He has to like, but I really like it how he's like he's like he's interesting main character. Like even like Ignet in the latest chapter said that he's interesting, and like Lulu thought that he was boring at the beginning, but he definitely is interesting. Where he's like he's a blank piece of paper that was one way, and then he thinks of himself one way, but then as he's like going along, it's like the people around him are sketching themselves onto him, and he's using that in order to reimagine himself as the story progresses. And I think that that's interesting. And that's, I guess you could say, like the perfect main character to follow, sort of like a game main character where you're the person that's controlling him, even though that he's conforming himself while being himself, while also seeing other people and then deciding what's right, what's wrong, and how to manifest his true potential in order to like do it. But then there seems like there's more stuff going on with demons that are showing up that he has to fight, that he ends up finding out the dream guy hates demons. Who knows what sort of hatred he has towards those guys, and he has to like figure out other factions. And then like in the past the 5 year time skip, he ended up meeting Judith and Brett, and then we don't really know what's been going on with them in those 5 years, but it is cool that they finally got to meet up after those 5 years where he missed them. I have no idea what Ilya's gonna be like, because we still haven't gotten to the chapters where he meets up with Ilya again. Who knows if she's gonna go back to being cold hearted, or if she'll like actually still be like somewhat receptive to the main character, because it seems like Brett and Judith were very receptive to the main character coming back. There might have been troubles in those 5 years, but it seems like they're still have a pretty good relationship with him. You know that they're doing a little sparring match in the current chapter, but I hope that isn't really troubled. In order to have content in the story, they'll probably have some sort of conflict with those two, even though they'll probably resign it. Can't wait to see what happens with that. But I think those are my overall thoughts and opinions on this series as a review. Not really much else to talk about. I guess I did in order to like review things. I think that the orc fortune teller is kind of cool. The character that we met once towards before the 5 year time skipped, and then we see him become a companion again in the second after the time skip, and then becoming like the main character's friend. He seems like a pretty interesting character. How like they use him as comedy, but I feel like his comedy in the right sense instead of him being, because he's not really annoying. He's just like a fun character, which is I guess some series don't really get, where some can be fun but they don't need to be stupid. But then he's very interesting how he can like he can look into someone with glowing eyes and like have this accurate fortunes. It'd be cool if we get to meet more orcs, or even like more creatures, more species, and more other things, like who knows what other stuff we'll get to see, and see the main character try to get that burning passion. But I think other than that, that's all I really need to talk about. I think I've talked about everything that all my thoughts and all my opinions that I have right now until like I read further. I guess I'll need to wait until 50 more chapters come out to talk about the series again. But those are my overall thoughts. Also, I think the art is fantastic. Like at the series end review, the artist and author were talking about the series and how they need to refine themselves. I definitely think that the art definitely changed. Like it showed that it changed two to three times. Even the original starting art I thought was pretty cool. Uh, but it's really nice to look at, and I think that it works out pretty well. It definitely caught my eye when I saw the basic image of reading into this series, and I definitely really liked it. If you tell me what you also think, tell me your thoughts and opinions on this series too. But these are my basic thoughts. Who knows if these are just really basic or if these seemed intriguing on what I'm thinking about it. I can't wait to see what happens next in the next 50 chapters. But 50 chapters from now, I'll talk about do an update of what I'm thinking about it. But overall, that's all I really gotta say. I think the series is pretty good, and I think you should check it out. So, if you enjoyed my thoughts and my opinions, then leave a like. If you didn't enjoy this whatsoever, you can leave a dislike. I'll be talking about something else soon, whether it be something like this or something entirely different, or maybe something that I talked about in the past and have to catch up on. So, see you guys in the next video, and bye. See you later.